Jihan. My name shouldn't have reached me through the chaos of 1,000 graduating students, but it did, clear and unmistakable. I turned, and there he was, Hajuan, the Hajuan, Korea's top idol, walking directly toward me through a sea of shocked faces. His smile was blinding. His eyes locked on mine with recognition that made my heart crash against my ribs. Run. You have to run. But relief flooded through me too. Paralyzing and wrong, and before I could move, his arms pulled me into an embrace that stopped time itself. Jihan Hyung, I missed you, he whispered against my ear. We stood frozen while cameras flashed and whispers exploded around us. 1,000 people watching, recording, and not one of them knowing the truth. The man holding me was the father of my twins. Hey, welcome to Imagine BL Story. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really encourages my work and helps me bring you more stories. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy today's story. The embrace lasted 3 seconds, maybe 4, just long enough for my entire world to tilt. I'd only come on an invitation to support a friend's graduation, and never in a million years did I think I'd see him again. Like this. When Hajuan pulled back, his hands stayed on my shoulders, his alpha scent. Cedarwood and something expensive. Wrapping around me like it had every right to. The crowd pressed closer, phones raised. Everyone trying to understand why Korea's most beloved idol was touching some nobody Omega. Everyone. Hajuan's voice rang out, practiced and easy. This is Jihan. We went to high school together. Can you believe it's been 5 years? He laughed. The crowd relaxed. Old friends. That made sense. But I knew better. Hajuan. I managed, trying to step back. His grip tightened. Not enough for others to notice, just enough to trap me. I didn't expect to see you here. I wouldn't miss my own graduation. His smile stayed fixed, but his eyes asked 1,000 questions I couldn't answer. Where have you been? Why did you disappear? Couldn't breathe. The crowd was too close, the cameras too bright. Hajuan too dangerously close to everything I'd spent 5 years hiding. I should go. Congratulations on your graduation. Let me give you a ride. The words cut through my escape. What? A ride home, wherever you're going. Steel underneath his smile. We should catch up. It's been too long, Hyung. He used to whisper it against my skin in the dark. Now he wielded it like a weapon, making refusal impossible. I really can't. I have somewhere. Then I'll drive you there. His hand slid to my elbow, already steering me toward the parking lot. I insist. People were watching, recording. Someone would post this online within minutes. If I made a scene, questions would be asked. Connections would be made. I couldn't afford that, so I nodded. Let him guide me to where a sleek black car waited. Tinted windows promising privacy I didn't want. It's just a ride, Hajuan said softly. Just let me see you, talk to you, please. The please nearly broke me, but I had to think about Hajun and Hana, about the life I'd built in secret, about the lie that would destroy everything if the truth came out. I climbed into the car and the door closed with a heavy thunk. Hajuan slid in beside me, and his arms were around me again, tighter this time, desperate. His face pressed into my neck, inhaling deep and shuddering. Hajuan! My voice cracked, hands frozen, unsure whether to push him away or pull him closer. His scent wrapped around me and my pheromones responded before I could stop it, and I hated myself for it. Hajuan, I said firmer, hand on his shoulder. People can see. He pulled back slowly, reluctantly, his eyes darker. His hands lingered on my arms like he was afraid I'd disappear. Sorry, he breathed. But he didn't look sorry. He looked wrecked. 5 years, Jihan. 5 years and you smell exactly the same. The driver cleared his throat softly. Hajuan settled back, putting necessary inches between us. But his gaze never left my face. The car started moving. So, Hajuan said quietly, where have you been? My phone felt heavy in my pocket. Inside, photos of Hajun and Hana. Evidence of everything I couldn't tell him. I swore I could hear my son's voice from this morning. Appa, do you think I'll ever meet Hajuan? He's so cool. And we have the same name. I've been around. Just living. Hajuan's jaw tightened. He didn't believe me. As we drove away from the university, away from safety, away from carefully maintained distance, I realized with creeping horror that this was only the beginning. The silence in the car pressed against my chest. I kept my eyes on the window to avoid looking at Hajuan, but I could feel his gaze like a physical touch. Just living? He repeated, something sharp underneath. That's all you have to say? After 5 years. My fingers twisted in my lap. What do you want me to say? The truth would be nice. You disappeared, Jihan. Completely. I tried calling, your number was disconnected. I went to your apartment, you'd moved. Like you'd never existed. Because that's what I needed you to believe. I needed a fresh start. After everything. After we broke up. After. My throat closed around the lie I'd told him. The baby I'd said we lost. I couldn't stay. It hurt too much. It hurt me too. Did you think about that? Every single day. I thought. You had your debut. Your career. Your dream. You didn't need me holding you back. Holding me back? Jihan, I wanted you there. I wanted you with me through all of it. Your mother didn't. The words slipped out bitter and raw. The car fell silent. What did she say to you? Hajuan's voice went dangerously soft. I shook my head. This was dangerous territory. It doesn't matter anymore. It matters to me. Well, it shouldn't. I finally turned to face him. He looked older. Still devastatingly handsome, but with shadows under his eyes that hadn't been there before. You got everything you wanted, Hajuan. You're Korea's top idol. You have millions of fans. Isn't that enough? Something flickered across his face. Pain, maybe. You'd think so, wouldn't you? The emptiness in his tone made my chest ache. I recognized it because I carried the same hollowness inside me. Tell me about your life now, he said. What did you study? Where are you working? Are you... He hesitated, hands clenching. Are you seeing anyone? Just our 2 children you don't know exist. I studied business administration. Finished my degree. Working at a small company. Nothing exciting. And no, I'm not seeing anyone. The last part was true, at least. There had been no one since Hajuan. How could there be, when I spent every day looking at 2 small faces that were half his? Why not? He asked quietly. Because I'm still in love with you. Because I have your children. Because I ruined everything. Just haven't found the right person, I guess. I tried for lightness and failed. What about you? I'm sure you have people throwing themselves at you. It's not the same when they only see the idol. They don't see me. They see Hajuan the celebrity, not the person I actually am. I wanted to tell him I saw him, that I'd always seen him. The boy who brought me snacks during late-night study sessions, who held me when I cried, who kissed me like I was precious. But that boy was gone. At least that's what I needed him to believe. I'm sure it's lonely. You have no idea. I got everything I worked for. And somehow, he trailed off looking out his window. It never felt complete. Like something essential was missing. The guilt clawed at my throat. Hajuan, I started. But then my phone rang. The screen lit up with a name that made my blood run cold. Co Yuna Nanny. No, Yuna never called during the day. Texts for updates, calls only for emergencies. Yuna, I answered, voice tight with fear. What's wrong? Jihan SSI. I'm so sorry. Her voice was high and panicked. It's Hajun. He was playing with Hana and he fell. He hit his head on the corner of the coffee table. There's so much blood and he won't stop crying and I think we need to go to the hospital. The world tilted. Which hospital? I shouted. Nothing mattered except getting to my child. Yuna, which hospital? S&T hospital. The ambulance is here now. I'll be there in 15 minutes. Keep him calm. Tell him I'm coming. I ended the call and reached for the door, hands shaking. My son was hurt. My baby was bleeding and scared and I wasn't there. Jihan, wait. Hajuan's hand caught my arm. What happened? Who was that? Let me go. I yanked against his grip. I have to, someone's hurt. I need to get to the hospital. Now. We're in the middle of traffic. Tell me what's wrong. Let me help. You can't help. Please, Hajuan. Just let me out. I have to go now. For a moment he just stared. Then something shifted, a familiar determination. He leaned forward to the driver. Take us to S&T. Emergency entrance. As fast as you can. Hajuan. I'm taking you. Firm, leaving no room for argument. Whatever's happening, whoever's hurt, you're terrified. I'm not letting you go alone. I should have argued. Should have protected my secret. But my son was hurt and bleeding and every second counted. Okay. I whispered. Thank you. The car accelerated, weaving through traffic. I watched buildings blur past, leg bouncing, hands clenched. Every red light felt like an eternity. Please let him be okay. Hey! Hajuan's voice was softer, his hand covering mine. Breathe, Jihan. Head wounds bleed a lot, but they're usually not as serious as they look. I nodded mechanically. He had no idea he was about to come face to face with the truth that would shatter both our lives. The hospital finally came into view. I was moving before the car fully stopped, stumbling out, barely hearing Hajuan call my name. I forced myself to stop, forced myself to turn back to Hajuan standing there confused and worried. Thank you. Thank you for the ride. You can leave now. I'll be fine, I said. Jihan, please. I met his eyes, begging him silently to just go. I'll be fine. Really. Without waiting for his reply, I ran through the automatic doors and they shut behind me, cutting him off. My legs nearly gave out as I rushed through the hospital corridor, following a nurse. Room 304, the nurse said, pointing down the hall. He's stable, just getting the wound cleaned and bandaged. I barely heard her. My feet were already moving. The moment I pushed through the door, I saw him. Hajun was sitting on the examination table, tears streaming down his face, a nasty gash above his right eyebrow. Blood had dried on his cheek and shirt. Appa! He saw me and immediately reached out. Appa, it hurts. I'm here, baby. I'm here. I rushed to his side, taking his hand and squeezing it tight. You're being so brave, Juna. So brave. Hana sat in the corner chair, her face pale and tear-stained, clutching her stuffed rabbit. When she saw me, fresh tears spilled over. Appa, I'm sorry, she whispered. We were just playing and he fell. It's not your fault, sweetheart. Accidents happen. I glanced at the doctor. How bad is it? Superficial laceration. No signs of concussion. 3 stitches should do it, the doctor said calmly. He'll be fine. Fine. The word should have brought relief, but my hands were still shaking. 20 minutes later, we were cleared to go home. Hajun had a fresh white bandage and a lollipop. Hana walked close to my side, still quiet, still guilty. The taxi ride home was silent except for Hajun's occasional sniffles. I kept one arm around each of them, holding them close. Safe. They're safe. By the time we reached our apartment, exhaustion had caught up with all of us. Appa, can I watch TV? Hajun asked, already perking up despite the bandage. Just for a little bit, then bed. Both of you. Hana curled up on the couch while Hajun grabbed the remote, flipping through channels. He stopped suddenly, his whole body going rigid. No. Hajuan's face filled the screen. A music video. The bass pounded through our tiny living room as he moved across the screen with that devastating grace. Appa, look! Hajun was on his feet instantly, all traces of pain forgotten. It's Hajuan. My Hajuan. He started dancing, mimicking the moves he'd watched 100 times, singing along with words he'd memorized. His bandaged head bobbed with each movement, because all I could see was him, on our screen, in our home, while our son, his son, danced to his music, loving him without knowing the truth. Appa, my name is just like his. Hajun spun toward me, grinning. That's so cool, right? Yeah. Baby, I whispered. So cool. The weight of the secret was crushing me. An hour later, both kids were in bed. Hana had fallen asleep almost immediately. I tucked the blanket around her, pressed a kiss to her forehead. How do I tell them I saw their father today? The doorbell rang. Appa, someone's at the door. Hajun's voice, he was supposed to be asleep. Hajun, no? I rushed toward the living room, but I was too late. He'd already unlocked it, already pulled it open. A tall figure stood in the doorway. Black mask, baseball cap pulled low. The figure reached up, pulled down the mask. Hajuan. His eyes met mine over Hajun's head, and the world tilted. You're Hajuan. Hajun's shriek of pure joy pierced the air. The real Hajuan. Appa. APPA. It's really him. Couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. Hajuan's gaze dropped to Hajun, and I watched the confusion flicker across his face, taking in the bandage, the pajamas with little stars. Hey, buddy, he said softly, crouching down. What's your name? Hajun. Just like you. Appa named me after you because you're the best. The smile on Hajuan's face froze, just for a heartbeat, just long enough for me to see the exact moment realization began to dawn. His eyes lifted to mine, and in them I saw the question that would destroy everything. That's a great name, he said slowly, still looking at me. The silence stretched between us like a chasm. Hajun, go to your room. Now. My voice came out sharp, cutting through my son's excited chatter. He looked up at me, confused. But Appa, it's Hajuan. Can't I just... Now, Hajun. The firmness made him flinch. His bottom lip trembled, but he obeyed, casting one last longing glance at his idol, at his father, before shuffling down the hallway. The soft click of his bedroom door felt like a death knell. Silence crashed over us. Hajuan stood slowly, his full height suddenly intimidating in my small apartment. His expression was carefully blank, but his eyes were searching my face. You have children. It wasn't a question. I couldn't speak. My throat had closed up completely. You're married. His voice cracked on the word. No, don't lie to me. He laughed, but it was bitter, twisted with pain. I spent 5 years thinking about you, wondering where you were, if you were okay, and you just moved on. Had a whole family. It's not like that. Then what is it like, Jihan? The explosion was sudden, raw. Tell me, because from where I'm standing, it looks like you forgot all about us. There is no one else. The words burst out of me, desperate and broken. Hajuan stopped. What? I'm not married. It's just me and the kids. It's always been just us. I watched the anger drain from his face, replaced by confusion. Then, who's the father? The question hung in the air. I felt my tears spill over. My hands were trembling. Everything was trembling. You are. Silence. Complete, devastating silence. Hajuan's face went through a dozen emotions. Confusion, disbelief, shock, dawning horror. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. What did you just say? They're yours, Hajuan. Each word felt like I was tearing out pieces of my own heart. Hajun and Hana. They're your children. But you said... His voice was barely a whisper. You said you lost the baby. You told me. I lied. The words hit him like a physical blow. He actually stumbled backward, catching himself on the couch. His face had gone completely white. You lied. The anguish in his voice made me want to die. For 5 years, Jihan. 5 years I thought our baby was gone. I mourned. And you were. I thought I was protecting you. I was sobbing now, the words tumbling out. Your mother. She said I'd ruin your life, that I'd destroy your career, that you'd hate me for trapping you. So you decided for me? He was crying too now, tears streaming down his face. You didn't even give me a choice. You just took everything away from me. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't give me back 5 years, Jihan. 5 years of their lives. First steps. First words. Birthdays. Everything. I missed everything. I had no defense. No excuse. He was right. About all of it. His knees buckled, and he collapsed onto my couch, head falling into his hands. His shoulders shook with silent sobs. Hajuan. Don't. The word was muffled against his palms. Just don't. The silence that followed was suffocating. Heavy with everything broken between us. With all the time we'd lost. With the children sleeping down the hall who didn't know their father was falling apart in their living room. Finally, after what felt like hours, Hajuan lifted his head. His eyes were red and swollen, his face wet with tears. But when he spoke, his voice was firm. Steady in a way that terrified me. I want to meet them. Properly. Hajuan. They're my children. His voice cracked but held. I've already lost 5 years. I'm not losing another second. I opened my mouth to respond, to say what I didn't know, when a small sound cut through the tension. A door creaking open. We both turned toward the hallway. Hana stood there in her star-patterned pajamas, her favorite rabbit clutched to her chest. Her hair was mussed from sleep. Her eyes still heavy-lidded but alert enough to sense something was wrong. She'd always been sensitive like that. My little empath who could read a room better than most adults. Appa. Her voice was small, uncertain. Why are you crying? My hand flew to my face. I hadn't even realized I was still crying. It's okay, baby. Go back to bed. But her eyes had already found Hajuan. She froze, her small body going rigid. For a moment I thought she might run back to her room. Hana had always been the shyer twin, the one who hid behind my legs when strangers talked to her. Hajuan seemed to understand this instinctively. He didn't move from where he sat on the couch, didn't reach out or speak. He just waited. Let her observe him on her own terms. I watched my daughter take him in. The red eyes, the tear-stained face, the way he was trying so hard to look non-threatening. And then she looked at me, reading something in my expression that I couldn't hide. Slowly, she padded across the room and pressed herself against my side. I wrapped my arm around her automatically, feeling her warmth seep into me like an anchor. "Who is he, Appa?" she whispered. But in the quiet apartment, Hajuan definitely heard. I looked at him, helpless. What do I say? Hajuan's throat worked as he swallowed hard. When he spoke, his voice was gentle, careful. "My name is Hajuan. I'm a friend of your Appa's." Hana peeked around my body, studying him with those sharp, observant eyes. "You're the singer. Hajun likes you." "Yeah." A small, broken smile crossed Hajuan's face. "Your brother mentioned that. He has your name." She said it matter-of-factly, the way children do. "Did you know that?" I felt Hajuan's sharp intake of breath. Saw the way his hands clenched against his thighs. I do now. It's a pretty special name." Hana was quiet for a moment. Then, "You have my eyes." The world stopped. Hajuan's face crumpled for just a second before he got control of himself. His hand came up to cover his mouth, and I could see him fighting back fresh tears. "Yeah," he whispered. "I guess I do." She studied him a moment longer, then seemed to decide something. Without warning, she pulled away from me and walked right up to him. Hajuan went completely still, like he was afraid any movement might spook her. Hana reached out and patted his knee once, twice. "It's okay to cry. Appa cries sometimes too. He thinks we don't know, but we do." I pressed my hand to my mouth, my own tears returning with a vengeance. Hajuan let out a sound that was half laugh, half sob. "Thank you. That's very kind of you." Hana nodded, satisfied, then turned back to me. "Can I go back to bed now?" "Yes, baby. I'll be there in a minute to tuck you in." She nodded and started back toward the hallway, but paused at the doorway. Looking back at Hajuan, she said quietly, "You should come back tomorrow. Hajun would like that." Then she disappeared into the darkness of the hallway, leaving us both staring after her. "She's..." Hajuan's voice broke. He cleared his throat and tried again. "She's incredible. They both are." I sank into the chair across from him, suddenly exhausted. "Hajuan, we need to tell them." He cut me off, but his tone wasn't harsh anymore. Just determined. "Not tonight, not tomorrow, but soon, when the time is right." He looked at me, and I saw the plea in his eyes. "But I need to be around them. I need to know them, Jihan. Please." What could I say? He was right. They deserved to know him. He deserved to know them. "Okay," I whispered. "Okay." The next few weeks became a strange, delicate dance of learning and adjusting. Hajuan came by almost every day, working around his schedule in ways that must have driven his manager crazy. Always in disguise, masks and caps, but the twins recognized him instantly every time. Hajun was in absolute heaven. His idol, his favorite person in the entire world, was suddenly, inexplicably a regular presence in their lives. He didn't question it, just accepted it with the uncomplicated joy of a 5-year-old whose dreams had come true. Hajuan Hyung. Watch this. He'd perform the same dance routine 17 times in a row, and Hajuan would watch every single one with rapt attention, clapping and cheering. Hana took longer to warm up, but warm up she did. It started with allowing Hajuan to sit next to her during movie time, then letting him help with her coloring books. Then one day casually mentioning she liked strawberry milk, and the next day finding her favorite brand in the fridge. I watched it happen from the sidelines. Watched my children fall in love with their father without knowing that's what was happening. Watched Hajuan transform from the polished idol into something softer, more real. He was completely, utterly devoted to them. The apartment slowly filled with evidence of his presence. New toys that appeared despite my protests, books he'd practiced reading until he got the voices just right, hair ties and clips because he'd watched YouTube tutorials to learn how to braid Hannah's hair properly. "You have to stop," I told him one evening, gesturing at the massive dollhouse he'd somehow smuggled in. "This is too much. It's not enough. I have 5 years to make up for." I couldn't argue with that. One night, I found him sitting on the floor with Hajun, watching the boy perform a dance cover of one of Hajuan's own songs. Hajun was completely focused, his little face scrunched in concentration. When he finished, he looked at Hajuan expectantly. "Was it good?" "It was perfect. You're amazing, buddy. So talented. Hajun beamed and threw himself at Hajuan for a hug. Over his head, I saw Hajuan squeeze his eyes shut, tears leaking from the corners. Later, after bedtime routines, after Hajuan read them 3 stories in increasingly ridiculous voices, both twins hugged him goodnight. See you tomorrow? Hajun asked hopefully. Wouldn't miss it, Hajuan promised. After I'd tucked them in properly and returned to the living room, I found Hajuan sitting on the couch with his face in his hands. His shoulders were shaking. Hajuan, they hugged me. They hugged me goodnight like it was the most natural thing in the world. I sat down beside him, maintaining careful distance. They love you. They don't even know I'm their father. And they still love me. Of course they do. You're wonderful with them. He looked at me then, really looked at me, and something in his expression had shifted. The anger that had been simmering beneath every interaction had dimmed. I'm starting to see it. How hard you worked. How much you've done for them. The sacrifices you made. My throat tightened. I should have told you. I know that now. I've always known. But my mother manipulated you. You were young, scared, pregnant. You thought you were doing the right thing. I was wrong. Yeah, you were. But I can't keep punishing you for it. The silence that followed felt almost peaceful. I'm not saying I've forgiven everything. I don't know if I ever can, completely. But I understand why you did it. And I want to move forward. For them. For us. The word hung between us, loaded with possibility. What does that mean? I whispered. Hajuan reached across the space between us, his hand covering mine. It means I want us to be a family. I want to be their father, not just some guy who visits. I want to be there for school events and scraped knees and bad dreams and everything. He paused, and his scent shifted deeper, richer. I want to be with you. My breath caught. Hajuan. I know it's complicated. I know there's still so much we need to work through. But Jihan, I never stopped loving you. Not once in 5 years. And now we have them and they're perfect and I want this. I want all of it. I stared at our joined hands, tears falling silently onto our intertwined fingers. Are you sure? Your career. Your mother will. I don't care. I lost 5 years because of fear and other people's expectations. I'm not losing anymore. He lifted my hand to his lips, pressing a soft kiss to my knuckles that made my omega keen. Will you let me try? Let me be what I should have been from the beginning. I looked up at him through my tears. At this man who I'd loved and left and hurt so badly. This man who was offering me forgiveness I didn't deserve. Yes, I whispered. Yes. And then he pulled me into a hug so tight it felt right. The weeks that followed felt like learning to breathe again after being underwater for 5 years. Hajuan kept his promise. He was there. Every day, in whatever stolen moments his schedule allowed. But something had shifted between us. The careful distance we'd maintained started to shrink, until I found myself hyper-aware of every accidental brush of his hand. Every lingering look. One evening, after the twins were asleep, we sat on my tiny balcony sharing a bottle of soju. Something we used to do back when we were teenagers. Remember when we used to sneak onto your apartment rooftop? Hajuan asked, his voice soft with nostalgia. You'd steal your mom's cheap wine, and we'd talk until sunrise. I smiled despite myself. You were always such a lightweight. I'd have to practically carry you back down. You loved it. He bumped my shoulder with his, and the casual touch sent warmth flooding through me. You loved taking care of me. Still do? I said without thinking, then froze. Hajuan went very still beside me. When I finally gathered the courage to look at him, his eyes were dark, intense in the dim light. Jihan, he said quietly, can I ask you something? My heart hammered against my ribs. Okay. Why didn't you bond with anyone else? In 5 years, you could have moved on, found someone who could help you raise them. But you didn't. The question hung between us, heavy with implication. Because they weren't you. No one could be you. His breath hitched. You still. I never stopped. The confession tumbled out before I could stop it. I never stopped loving you, Hajuan. Even when I thought I was doing the right thing by leaving. Even when I hated myself for what I'd done. I never stopped. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then Hajuan's hand came up to cup my face. His thumb brushing away a tear I hadn't realized had fallen. I looked for you everywhere. Every Omega I passed on the street, every coffee shop, every crowd. I kept thinking I'd catch your scent and find you again. His forehead pressed against mine, and I could feel his breath ghosting across my lips. You broke my heart, Hyung, and somehow, I'd let you do it again in a heartbeat. Hajuan. He kissed me. It was soft at first, tentative, like he was afraid I might disappear. But when I made a small sound in the back of my throat and leaned into him, something unleashed. His hand slid into my hair, tilting my head as he deepened the kiss. And suddenly we were teenagers again, making out on rooftops and promising each other forever. Except now we knew what forever actually cost. Wow, you've made it this far. If you're enjoying the story and still haven't subscribed, please take a second to do so. It means a lot. Also, drop a comment and let us know where you're listening from. Alright, let's get back to the story. Hajuan became bolder, more affectionate. He'd pull me close when we cooked dinner together, his chest pressed against my back. He'd find excuses to touch me. A hand on my back, fingers tangling with mine, stolen kisses when the twins weren't looking. One afternoon, while Hajun and Hana were absorbed in building a blanket fort, Hajuan cornered me in the kitchen. His eyes were playful, mischievous in a way I hadn't seen in years. What? I asked, trying not to smile. Nothing. He stepped closer, caging me against the counter. Just thinking about how good you look when you're flustered. I'm not. But the words died when he dipped his head, nuzzling into my neck right where my scent gland was. The gesture was intimate, possessive, and completely inappropriate with our children just in the next room. Hajuan? I breathed, trying to sound stern but failing miserably. He pulled back just enough to look at me, his eyes heated. I want to bond you properly, the way I should have 5 years ago. My breath caught. What? Not yet. I know we need to take this slow. Need to tell the kids first. But Jihan. His hand came up to trace the line of my jaw. I want forever with you. I want to wake up to your scent every morning. Want to know that you're mine and I'm yours. Officially. Tears pricked my eyes. You really want that? Even after everything? Especially after everything. He pressed a soft kiss to my forehead. We've wasted enough time, don't you think? We told them on a Sunday morning, 3 weeks after that first night. Both twins were cuddled on the couch in their pajamas, watching cartoons while Hajuan and I made breakfast together. A routine that had become natural, domestic, right? Kids, I called softly. Can you come here for a minute? We need to talk about something. They shuffled into the kitchen, Hajun immediately gravitating to Hajuan's side, while Hana pressed against mine. We'd moved to the small dining table, all 4 of us sitting close together. Is something wrong? Hana asked, her intuitive nature picking up on the nervous energy. No, baby. Nothing's wrong. I took a deep breath, looking at Hajuan for support. He nodded encouragingly, his hand finding mine under the table. We have something important to tell you. Hajun swung his legs, impatient. What is it? Hajuan cleared his throat. You know how you both call Jihan Appa? They nodded in unison. Well, I'm your Appa too. Silence. Hajun's face scrunched up in confusion. What do you mean? It means, I said gently, that Hajuan isn't just a singer. He's your father. Your other parent. Hana's eyes went wide. She looked between us, processing. So, you're our daddy? Hajuan's eyes filled with tears. Yeah, sweetheart. I'm your daddy. Is that why I have your name? Hajun asked slowly. Yes. Hajuan's voice cracked. Your Appa named you after me because he loved me very much. And I love him. And we both love you so much. Another beat of silence. Then, does this mean you're staying? Hajun asked, and the hope in his voice made my chest tight. If you'll let me, I want to be here all the time. Want to be a real family. Hajun launched himself at Hajuan with a delighted shriek. Yes, I get to have you as my daddy and my favorite singer. Hana was quieter, more thoughtful. She looked at me seriously. Is this why you were crying that night? Yes, baby. She seemed to consider this, then nodded once, decisive. She walked around the table to Hajuan and held out her arms. When he picked her up, she wrapped her small arms around his neck and whispered, I'm glad you're our daddy. Hajuan broke down completely, holding both twins close as happy tears streamed down his face. Over their heads, his eyes found mine, and the love there was so fierce it stole my breath. We were going to be okay. We were going to be a family. Finally. 6 months could feel like a lifetime when you were living a double life. On the surface, nothing had changed. Hajuan was still the nation's beloved idol, performing on music shows, attending award ceremonies, smiling for cameras. But every night he came home to us, to our small apartment that had somehow become ours instead of just mine. We'd gotten married quietly, just the four of us and a lawyer who specialized in confidential celebrity cases. No white dress, no grand ceremony. Just vows whispered in our living room while the twins held makeshift bouquets of grocery store flowers. Hajuan wore his wedding band on a chain around his neck, hidden under his shirts. I wore mine proudly. We became experts at deception. Different routes every time. Hajuan in increasingly elaborate disguises. Me coaching the twins never to mention Daddy's visits to anyone at school. Family outings only happened hours away from Seoul, in places where no one would recognize Korea's biggest star. It was exhausting. It was terrifying. It was the happiest I'd ever been. Until the morning everything shattered. I was making breakfast when my phone started buzzing. Once, twice, then constantly, an endless stream of notifications that made my stomach drop. Jihan. Hajuan emerged from the bedroom, his phone pressed to his ear, his manager's voice audible. High-pitched, panicked. His face had gone completely white. Don't look at your phone. Don't. But I already had. The screen was full of news alerts. Breaking. Idol Hajuan's secret family exposed. Photos. Hajuan seen entering Mystery Omega's apartment. Exclusive. Hajuan's hidden children. My hands started shaking. The articles were everywhere. Photos of Hajuan entering our building, grainy but unmistakable. Pictures of me with the twins at the park. Someone had been following us, watching us, waiting. Appa. Hajun appeared in the doorway, still in his dinosaur pajamas. Why is your phone making so much noise? I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. Hajuan was at my side in an instant, gathering me against his chest. It's okay. We'll figure this out. It's going to be okay. But it wasn't okay. Within hours, our building was surrounded. News vans, reporters with cameras, crowds holding signs. Some supportive, most not. The building management hired security just to keep them from forcing their way into the lobby. I kept the twins home from school, kept the curtains drawn, watched through a crack as strangers screamed at our windows. Manipulative Omega. He trapped him with babies. Hajuan deserves better. But also, leave them alone. They have a right to privacy. The divided reactions somehow made it worse. Hajuan's phone didn't stop ringing. His manager, his CEO, his publicist. Everyone had an opinion, a strategy, a demand. I listened to him argue with his agency's CEO. I won't deny it. They're my family. I'm not going to stand in front of cameras and lie about them. The CEO's voice crackled through the speaker. This is career suicide, Hajuan. We can spin this. Say you were young, foolish, that the Omega took advantage. Don't you dare. Jihan did nothing wrong. I'm not throwing him under the bus to save my image. Then you're throwing away everything you've worked for. So be it. He hung up. His hands were shaking. I wanted to go to him, but Hana was clinging to my leg, crying because she'd heard the people outside calling her Appa terrible names. Hajun was hiding under his bed, refusing to come out. Everything was falling apart. His mother called around 2 a.m. the next day. I was half asleep on the couch when I heard Hajuan's phone buzzing from the bedroom, his groggy voice answering. Then silence. Then his voice again, strained and tired. Mom, please. I'm not throwing my life away. I'm choosing. Mom, listen to me. A long pause. Then exhaustion bleeding into resignation. I can't keep having this conversation. I'm sorry you feel that way. I love you, but I have to go. He emerged from the bedroom, running both hands through his hair, face etched with pain. She's taking this really hard. Before I could move, my own phone lit up on the coffee table. Unknown number. Something in my gut told me not to answer, but my hands moved anyway. Hello. Are you happy now? Are you satisfied with what you've done to my son? My blood turned cold. Mother. Don't you dare call me that. You've destroyed him. Everything he worked for, gone. Because you couldn't stay away. Because you had to trap him with those children and ruin his entire future. Tears burned my eyes. I never meant. You never meant? You knew exactly what you were doing 5 years ago, and you knew exactly what you were doing when you let him back into your life. You're a leech, parasite. You've completely destroyed my son's life. I'm sorry, I choked out. I'm so sorry. The phone was suddenly yanked from my hand. Don't you ever speak to my husband like that again. Hajuan's voice was deadly quiet, shaking with barely controlled rage. "Do you hear me, mother? Ever?" I couldn't hear her response, but I saw Hajuan's jaw clench. "I don't care how upset you are. You do not get to attack him. You do not get to blame him for choices I made. This is my decision, my family, and if you can't respect that, then we have nothing more to say to each other." He ended the call and immediately dropped to his knees in front of me, pulling me into his arms as I dissolved into sobs. "I'm sorry," I gasped against his shoulder. "I've ruined everything. Your career, your relationship with your mother. Stop." His arms tightened around me. "Stop apologizing. This isn't your fault. None of this is your fault. But she's your mother, and I've come between you. She manipulated you 5 years ago. She made you believe you were doing the right thing by leaving. And now she's trying to do it again. But I'm not letting her. Not this time." He pulled back, cupping my face in his hands, forcing me to meet his eyes. They were red-rimmed but determined. "Listen to me. I chose this. I chose you. I chose our children. And I would make the same choice every single time. My mother is hurt and angry, and maybe someday she'll understand. But even if she doesn't, it doesn't change anything. You are my family now. That's what matters. But your career was just a job." He pressed his forehead to mine. "You're my life, and I won't let anyone, not the media, not the public, not even my own mother, make you feel like you're anything less than the best thing that ever happened to me." I clung to him, tears still streaming. "I'm going to get us out of this. I'm going to take you and our babies somewhere safe. Somewhere we can just be a family without all this noise. Trust me." I nodded against his shoulder. "I trust you," I whispered. 3 days later, Hajuan held a press conference. I watched it from home, the twins finally asleep. My heart was in my throat as Hajuan stood at the podium, facing a sea of cameras and hostile reporters. He looked tired. The carefully maintained idol image had cracked, revealing the man underneath. "I'm here to address the recent reports about my personal life. Everything you've seen is true. I have a partner, a husband, and 2 children, Hajun and Hana, who are 5 years old." The room erupted. Reporters shouting questions, cameras flashing. Hajuan waited for quiet. "Jihan and I have history that goes back to before my debut. We were friends first, then more. When circumstances separated us, I thought I'd lost him forever. Finding him again, finding our children, was the greatest gift of my life." His voice cracked slightly. He paused, gathering himself. "I understand that many of you feel betrayed, that I kept this secret. But I need you to understand, this wasn't about lying to you. It was about protecting them. About giving my children a chance at a normal life." A reporter shouted, "Did you know about the children from the beginning?" "No. I found out 6 months ago. And from that moment, I've been trying to be the father they deserve." "Why hide the relationship?" "Because I was afraid. Afraid of losing my career. Afraid of the judgment. But I'm done being afraid." He looked directly into the main camera, and I knew he was looking at me. "Jihan is the love of my life. Hajun and Hana are the best parts of my life. I'm not ashamed. I'm not apologizing for loving my family. I understand if you're disappointed in me, but I'm done living a lie." The conference devolved into chaos after that, but Hajuan had said what he needed to say. The fallout was immediate and brutal. Sponsors dropped him overnight. Radio stations pulled his songs. Award shows suddenly had scheduling conflicts. Celebrities who'd called him friend publicly distanced themselves. But worse was what it did to our family. Protesters appeared outside our building daily, screaming slurs, throwing things, making threats. Death threats came through every channel, emails, social media, letters slipped under our door. One was specifically about me. "That Omega ruined you. Someone should teach him a lesson." I stopped sleeping, started checking locks compulsively, jumped at every sound. The twins couldn't go to school. Other parents complained, worried about media attention. Hajun came home crying the one day we tried, saying kids had called his appa terrible names. Hana started having nightmares, waking up screaming about bad people taking daddy away. I watched Hajuan try to hold it together while his entire life crumbled. Watched him smile and play with the twins while his phone buzzed with another contract cancellation. Another friendship ending. Another piece of his dream dying. And I hated myself for it. The final straw came on a Tuesday afternoon. I'd risked taking the twins to a small park on the outskirts of Seoul, somewhere quiet where I thought we'd be safe. We'd been there maybe 20 minutes when I noticed the man with the camera. Then another. Then a whole group approaching fast. Hajoon, Hana, come here. Now. I tried to keep my voice calm, but they heard the panic. They ran to me just as the reporters descended, shouting questions, shoving cameras in our faces. Is it true Hajuan is leaving the industry? How does it feel being responsible for his downfall? I tried to shield the twins, but there were too many bodies, too many voices. Hana was crying. Hajoon was screaming for them to go away. Then someone grabbed Hajoon's arm, tried to pull him away from me. Just one photo, kid. No! I yanked him back, my Omega instincts exploding into something feral. Get away from my children. Security from a nearby building finally intervened, helping us escape to my car. But the damage was done. Both twins were hysterical. Hajoon's arm already bruising where the reporter had grabbed him. That night, after finally getting them to sleep, I found Hajuan sitting in the dark living room, staring at nothing. They tried to take him, I whispered, my voice breaking. They tried to take our son. Hajuan's jaw clenched. In the dim light, I could see tears on his cheeks. This can't continue. I can't keep watching them hurt you, hurt our children. I know what I have to do. The statement went out the next morning. Effective immediately, I am retiring from the entertainment industry. Thank you for the years of support. Hajuan. His phone exploded. Managers, producers, fans begging him to reconsider. But Hajuan had already moved on to planning our escape. We're leaving, he said, showing me plane tickets. New Zealand. I have friends there who can help us get settled. New names, new lives. A fresh start. You're giving up everything? I breathed, the guilt crushing my chest. I'm choosing everything that matters. My career isn't worth your safety. It's not worth Hajoon and Hana growing up afraid. 2 weeks later, we stood at the airport at an ungodly hour, surrounded by suitcases containing our entire lives. The twins were half asleep, each holding one of Hajuan's hands. As our plane lifted off, soul shrinking below us, I looked at Hajuan with tears streaming down my face. You gave up everything for us. He brought my hand to his lips, pressing a kiss to my knuckles. No, I gave up a dream for my reality. And my reality is you three. He looked at our sleeping children, then back at me, resting his forehead against mine. I choose you every time, Jihan. In every lifetime, in every universe. It would always be you. And for the first time in 6 months, I finally let myself believe we might actually be okay. We settled quickly in our modest new home, a 3-bedroom house in a quiet suburb where neighbors smiled and waved but didn't pry. No cameras, no reporters, no strangers screaming accusations. The twins adapted fast. Within weeks, Hajoon was chattering about his new friend Lucas, who also liked dinosaurs. Hana had joined an art club and came home with paintings she proudly displayed on our refrigerator. They were just kids. Normal kids who walked to school without bodyguards, who played at parks without disguises. It should have been perfect. But I watched Hajuan carefully, and I saw what he tried to hide. The dark days started about 2 months in. I'd find him late at night on our back porch, staring at nothing, or scrolling through old performance videos, his face illuminated by the glow of a stage he'd never stand on again. Sometimes he'd be in the spare room, earbuds in, listening to music he'd created but never had time to realize. He never complained, never said he regretted it, but I could see the grief in the set of his shoulders. Are you okay? I asked one night, finding him outside again. Yeah. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Just thinking. This is my fault, I thought. He must resent us. But when I tried to talk about it, he'd just pull me close and change the subject. Tell me about something funny, Hajoon said, or show me a drawing Hana made. Deflect, deflect, deflect. I didn't push. I was too afraid of what he might say if I did. Then I discovered the pregnancy on a random Tuesday morning, 3 months into our new life. The nausea had been persistent for a week. It wasn't until I was doubled over the toilet for the 3rd morning in a row that the possibility occurred to me. The test came back positive immediately. I stared at those 2 lines, hands shaking. Another baby. We were barely settled, still finding our footing. Hajuan was struggling with the loss of his career. The twins were adjusting to new schools. Was this really the right time? I told Hajuan that night, after the twins were asleep. Just handed him the test, unable to find words. He stared at it for a long moment. Then his face crumpled, and he pulled me into his arms so tightly I could barely breathe. Another baby? He whispered, voice thick with tears. We're really doing this. Are you happy? I asked nervously. I know the timing isn't ideal. Happy? Jihan, I'm ecstatic. This is God. This is perfect. But your career and everything we've been through doesn't matter. He cupped my face, thumbs stroking my cheeks. This matters. You matter. Our family matters. Everything else is just noise. For the first time since we'd left Korea, his smile reached his eyes. As my belly grew, something shifted in Hajuan. He started writing music again, not for an audience, just for himself. For us, I'd wake to find him at the old keyboard we'd bought secondhand, humming melodies and scribbling in a worn notebook. The darkness that had shadowed him began to lift. What are you working on? I asked one morning, leaning over his shoulder at 5 months pregnant. A lullaby. He played a few soft notes. For the baby. I want them to know my voice, even before they're born. My heart clenched. He'd never had that chance with the twins. It's beautiful, I whispered. He turned on the bench, pulling me onto his lap carefully, mindful of my belly. You're beautiful. Life became softer. Hajuan taught Hajun basic piano, their heads bent together over the keys. He took Hana to art supply stores and sat patiently while she explained color theory. We went to parks and museums and beaches, just a normal family doing normal things. And slowly, I watched him heal, and with that healing came with a good news we weren't anticipating. The email came when I was 7 months pregnant, swollen and uncomfortable and craving things that didn't exist in New Zealand. Hajuan's laptop dinged while we were having dinner. He glanced at the screen, then went completely still. What is it? I asked. It's an entertainment company. American. They want to set up a video call. My stomach dropped. What do they want? I don't know. He looked at me, uncertainty written across his face. Should I even respond? We talked about it after the kids were in bed. Weighed the risks, but ultimately curiosity won out. The video call was scheduled for the following week. 3 executives appeared on screen. Professional, polished, surprisingly warm. They got straight to the point. We've been following your career for years, Hajuan. Your songwriting, your production skills, they're exceptional. We want you working with us. I'm not performing, Hajuan said immediately. That part of my life is over. We know. We don't want you to perform. The lead executive, Sarah, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes, leaned forward. We want your talent, your ear, your ability to create music that moves people. We want to hire you as a producer, songwriter. Hajuan glanced at me. I nodded encouragingly. There's something you need to know, he said, turning back to the screen. His hand found mine, squeezing tight. I'm married to a man, an Omega. We have 5-year-old twins, and he's 7 months pregnant with our third. That's why I retired. I won't hide them. I won't pretend to be someone I'm not. If that's a problem. It's not, Sarah interrupted gently. We know your story. We know what happened back home. And frankly, the way you stood up for your family, that takes courage. The kind of integrity we want in people we work with. Another executive chimed in. We're not asking you to be in the spotlight. We're offering you a chance to do what you love on your terms. We want you, Hajuan. All of you. The call ended with an offer to fly us to Los Angeles to tour their facilities and discuss details. That night, lying in bed with Hajuan's hands splayed across my belly feeling our baby kick, we talked until sunrise. Do you want this? I asked. I want you to be comfortable. I want the kids to be safe. That's not what I asked. He was quiet for a long moment. Yeah, I want it. Not the fame, I don't miss that part. But the music. Creating something? Yeah, I miss it. Then you should do it. But what about? We'll figure it out together. That's what families do. 3 days later, Hajuan accepted the offer. Our son Heyman was born on a crisp autumn morning, a month after we'd moved to LA. Unlike with the twins, Hajuan was there for everything. Held my hand through contractions. Breathed with me. Cried when our son emerged, red-faced and screaming. He's perfect, Hajuan sobbed, holding him for the first time with shaking hands. He's absolutely perfect. When Hajun and Hana came to visit, they were completely mesmerized. Watching my family, all 5 of us, crowded into that hospital room, I felt something settle in my chest. Something that had been restless and guilty for years finally finding peace. 1 year later, our life looked nothing like I'd imagined and everything like I'd hoped. Hajuan's work was gaining recognition. Artists he produced were winning awards, topping charts. His name was becoming known again, but this time for his talent, not his scandal. I'd enrolled in graduate school part-time, studying early childhood education. Between classes and caring for Haman, my days were full but fulfilling. Hajun had discovered a passion for dancing, constantly begging his father to teach him new techniques. Hana had her artwork displayed in a local gallery, and Haman was a happy, chunky toddler who just started walking, stumbling toward whoever called his name with delighted giggles. We lived in a comfortable house in the Hollywood Hills. Not ostentatious, but spacious enough for our growing family. We attended industry events sometimes, Hajuan's arm around my waist while I held Haman. People stared occasionally, whispered sometimes, but mostly they just smiled and moved on. One evening, after an exhausting day of getting all 3 kids bathed and into bed, Haman had discovered the joy of splashing, which meant everyone ended up soaked. Hajuan and I collapsed onto the couch together. He pulled me against his chest, and we sat in comfortable silence, listening to the sounds of our home. "Are you happy?" I asked quietly. It was a question I'd been afraid to ask for a long time. But now, feeling the steady beat of his heart beneath my ear, I needed to know. Hajuan was quiet for a moment, considering. I knew what he was thinking about. What he'd lost. The stages and screaming fans. The awards and recognition. The dream he'd chased since childhood. Given up at 26. But then his chest rose with a deep breath, his arms tightening around me. "Yeah," he said softly. "I'm happy. Really. This life we've built. It's not the one I planned. It's better." His thumb stroked my cheek. "I used to think success was stadiums full of people chanting my name. But you know what it actually is? Coming home to 3 kids who run to hug me. A husband who loves me. A job I'm passionate about that doesn't require me to hide who I am." He pressed a soft kiss to my forehead. "I'm not just happy, Jihan. I'm fulfilled. There's a difference." Tears pricked my eyes. "I spent so long feeling guilty." "Don't." He shook his head. "We went through hell to get here. Both of us made mistakes. But every single thing led to this moment right here. And I wouldn't change it." I pulled him down for a kiss, pouring years of love and loss and rediscovery into it. When we broke apart, both breathless, I rested my forehead against his. "I love you," I whispered. "In case I don't say it enough, I love you so much." "I love you too." His arms tightened around me. Now and always. Through the baby monitor, we heard Haman start to fuss. Hajuan sighed but smiled, pressing one more kiss to my lips before we headed to our son's room together. This was our life now. Late-night feedings and early morning chaos. Sticky fingers and art projects. Music lessons and bedtime stories. Love without conditions. Family without secrets. And it was perfect. The end. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the story, tell us your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Until next time, keep daydreaming in BL.